Hello and welcome. Today we talk about Sukirtharani's poem My Body. I have discussed another poem of Sukirtharani which is called Tet in my earlier video, and there I have discussed about the life of Sukirtharani as well. So without delaying this further, let me discuss the poem. In the poem My Body, as the title suggests, the original title is Ennudal, the Tamil title is Ennudal, and as the title suggests, this is about the description of the body. Now I would discuss the symbolism of the body once I've covered the poem, so it will be easy for people to understand this. For now, it is important for us to know that Sukirtharani is a Tamil Dalit poet. Now let me first read the poem and explain it to you. Through a mountain where small shrubs abound flows a river. Along its banks, branches of trees running with sap lean over and touch the water's surface. The fruit, tasting richly of ginger, break open their fine skins and put forth their seeds. Water spills from the hollows in the rocks and cascades from the edge of cliffs. Now clearly this is a description of the land, and this is a very rich terrain. You have mountains, you have rivers, you have many trees, you have water, and you also have a very vivid image of fertility, right? So she describes the mountain and how the river flows, and through these mountains and branches, the fruit with its seeds that goes into the seeds actually will go into the earth, and with the touch of the water, it would be an image of fertility, right? It would germinate to produce more of this fruit, right? So the first stanza is mostly about the nurturing capacity of nature, and it's a very rich land which he describes, right? Let me look at the next stanza. A tiger, replete from its kill, wets its blood-smeared mouth at the swift water streams, and it climbs down scarlet ash, scatters from a volcano's gaping mouth, a vortex, whirling clockwise, agitates the earth. The day's heat dissolves into the night's coolness. In the end, nature becomes my body, lying still. So, compared to the first stanza, which is a very pristine description of a land, in the second stanza you see there is a lot of volatile activity happening, right? But finally there is restful peace, right? So there's this image of the tiger which has just killed something, and it has a blood smeared mouth. So presumably there was some violence before this, and the tiger has actually fought something, and it has come to this river, right? And it climbs down, and there's this description of the volcano's gaping mouth, and the volcano actually erupts, and gives a lot, basically throws out a lot which was pent up inside that volcano, right? So these could be just images of a kind of a Dalit uprising, because the Sukirtharani's poetry is a lot about Dalit rights and Dalit fighting back. This could just simply be her expression of the triumph of the Dalit community, which has won this very fierce battle of oppression. The image of, and towards the end you also see you can also see this as an image of sexual union in the very last lines, after which the body becomes very restful. Okay, it says the day's heat dissolves into the night's coolness. But Sukirtharani also identifies the ending of the poem as a peace after a storm. So ultimately she wants to identify with this land, and the line the end of this stanza is, in the end nature becomes my body, lying still. And I say this because in one of her interviews Sukirtharani herself talks about this poem Ian O'Dall, and she says, I read, I quote, "In the poem Ian O'Dall, it is like discovery that after violence and risk, there is peace in the end, like calm after storm." So basically, this is a description of how after a lot of uprise, after a lot of violence, finally there is some restful peace, right? And she goes on to say, it's one of my most favorite poems. Actually, the body of the woman is similar to the world because both of them create, but a woman does not have a home, her own space on this earth. And then she talks about how women don't have a complete identity of their own. They are very often made to depend on male, on either the father or the husband or whatever. They are not able to have complete identities of their own, independent identities of their own. And this is what she also wants to talk about in much of her poetry. Now, since Sukirtharani herself talks about this interpretation of her poem Ian O'Dall, this would be the most ideal interpretation of the way this poem is ending. The fruit tasting richly, this one, which says that the day's heat dissolves into the night's coolness, and at the end, nature becomes my body lying still. Right? And a similar interpretation has also been made in another critical essay, which is called Indigenous Bodies, Unwritten Desires. If you want, you can read this essay. It's open access. Here, the author interprets the tiger as a symbol of liberation of the Dalit community, as I was suggesting, because the tiger has come after having, the tiger itself is replete after a kill, signifying that the people, the land and the Dalit community are now becoming free. So the last stanza shows that there's a lot of volatile activity, but finally there is restful peace. And in this image, she weaves the picture of the woman who just had a sexual union. And this restful body of the woman is also the symbol of the land. So again, she weaves this idea that land and a body are actually one. Okay. And so she has many other, she's written similar, she's given such images of the land in many other poems as well. And for her, ownership of the land also represents autonomy over one's life. And the other very key idea that we take away from this poem is that of ecofeminism. Now, for us to call Sukirtharani an ecofeminist, let us first understand what is the philosophy behind ecofeminism. Ecofeminism is called ecological feminism, which is a branch of feminism that examines the connections between men, women, and nature. Right? Not men, women, and nature. Basically, women and nature. Right? So Sukirtharani says that a woman's body and nature have their similarities, and many ecofeminists believe that just like women who do not own land themselves, just like when I just read out the interview of Sukirtharani, she's saying this. So such women are very often the victims of patriarchal relations, and nature too is also a victim. So both have an innate nurturing quality about them, and therefore nature and ecology can be equated. Now, this is the premise of ecofeminism. Now, no philosophy exists without a counterpoint. The counterpoint to such philosophy would be that such a premise essentializes the nature of all women as nurturing. So it is somewhere it somewhere does not recognize the heterogeneity of women as a community. It assumes that all women are victims of patriarchy to the same degree, and and all women would be exploited to the same degree, right? So and also it puts the pressure on the nurturing aspect of women, and it says that all women are equally nurturing. So this kind of a premise has its pitfalls, but when we look at Sukirtharani's own poetry, it has this is her this is her basic philosophy. So Sukirtharani's poetry is not only about equating nature with womanhood, she also talks about Dalit issues, and through a frank expression of desire, she expresses her identity as a woman through other poems. So this was the poem. Thank you so much for requesting this. I'll see you again.